And now for our feature presentation.
Are you ready?
Streaming live around the world, this is Paper Cuts with Brad and Jay.
Hey, what a stupid question.
Oh, I've already had 2 glasses too of Tennessee whiskey.
Jay, you've done so good, and you have to muck it up right at the end. Jay's gray. He's all gray now. Look at his beard.
I mean, I got grayer, right? Everyone in the chat, thanks for stopping by and enjoying yourselves. We know you did. Three legends here with us.
This evening, Beau Johnson stops by to talk about Bishop Ryder Lives, and he brought a whole gang with him.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, shit, Brad. This show's still happening. I have not
Jay,
closed it down yet.
That was fancy, Jay.
That
It took you like 3 months to do that.
I know. Has it been 3 months since our last
It's
show?
been like 3 months since we had a show. Since it took you that long to make that video.
I totally forgot how to do this. And so we decided to start up again with a very happy, shiny unicorns and butterflies and kittens kind of show, right? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Nothing dark here, no.
Yeah, no. Welcome back, all of the Paper Cuts fans. I know you missed us from all
Nobody
the
missed us,
fan
Jay.
letters that we got, you know. Somebody was tweeting, like, what the hell happened to the Paper Cuts guys?
I think that was you. Okay. That was you.
All right. So, and of course, our honorary member, Meagan Lucas, is here, by the way. She's here.
Y'all.
But tonight's all about Beau Johnson, and he brought a gang with him. Dude, seriously. You got to let us in on what's going on here. I'll let you do the introductions because you brought your gang. You got your book, your anthology coming out. You had people lined up to contribute to this thing, and this is what we're going to talk about tonight. So, if you want to do introductions first, you want to see what everybody's drinking first. I think Megan's already a little drunk. So, she's giving me the evil eye too, by the way, just a tad. But it's up to you, buddy. It's your shindig.
Well, thanks, but I think it's everybody's shindig because these writers knocked it out of the park. But we have Rob Smith, who I'm indebted to because I got a little story about Rob. He wrote this story for this anthology, and where he took Bishop Ryder's story actually helped me write the Abram Files, my last book. Like, it gave me the through line. It was perfect, and his story kicks ass. And then we have James D.F. Hanna in the middle there, and his story knocks it out of the park as well. Ryder in his story is sort of behind the scenes, which is. Some of these stories are writers right in your face. He's only mentioned a couple of times, or he's in the background just lurking, which I love how many stories we have, how different they are. And Paul's story is from a different point of view, and it's pretty monstrous. Yeah. And Megan's is Black Snakes, which sometimes stories collide, and a one-legged man enters her story. And next is very timely, Uvalde, and what a lot of us felt when Uvalde happened. And he uses Ryder as a tool to extract some fun revenge. I don't want to give too much away. Yeah.
Give it all
very
away.
Heavy. Very heavy.
So I was waiting for you to see how far you went.
Just give it all up, though. Just
no, I'm not giving it all up. Yeah.
Well, here's
but the reason
in Nick's story. No.
But Bishop Ryder Lives is just like these guys. All these stories are like between my first 5 books and even the Abram Files with Rob's story. It's sort of they pull from between those pages. It's not like he's come back to life. Ryder is dead in my world or his universe, and so it's just a nice way to go back and the name wrote itself, really. Yeah. So
how did this all come together? What was the idea that you wanted to do an anthology, have other people play in your sandbox?
So there's 2 people that I owe thanks to, and I can't remember the first person who put it out there, but Alfred Alley, who is also in this anthology, asked me one day on Twitter, would I let other authors write my guy? And I'm like, sure. But I took a Twitter poll, and so many people said yes. That after that, I contacted Down and Out, and they agreed to it, and we put out the call. And 2 years later, here we are. There's a little
So you
more
didn't
to
have
it
to-
than that. But
So it was a all call or invitation, or did you blackmail everybody? How'd you get people to
yeah,
give
so
you stories?
I think I invited 8 and then open call. But then after Hector, my co-editor, he was right. We got a lot. It was a sausage fest, so he wanted some females perspective, which is he's right. So I put out a second call and just invited some female authors, and they knocked it out of the park. Like Meagan was one of them, Laurel Hightower and Mary Thorson. And then I just want to mention Ashley Irwin sent in a story too, and it was such a good story, but it just didn't quite fit the anthology. It was Ryder goes to hell, and he gets to. So Ryder, what created Ryder is this Marcel Abram ended up putting into motion that his mother and sister get killed. And long story short, in Ashley's story, Ryder's in hell, and he gets to kill Marcel Abram over and over for eternity.
Oh, that's cool.
It was such a cool story, and it was a great story, but I wanted to keep everything above board. So that's why it just didn't quite make the cut.
Ashley was not the only one you rejected, right? Did you have others?
No,
Did you-
and
or-
yeah,
He
I would
only
say
rejected Ashley.
I was going to say
Yeah,
because you
There was
you don't know this, but backstage, Ashley, come on out. Let's confront Beau for cut your story.
I see what I did there. Yeah, but
Yeah.
anyways, no, there was quite a few rejections, and it was not my favorite part. I never want to do it again.
Did I just put you on the spot? Give us a list of the names you rejected. Beau. It didn't make everyone here cringe because you picked them over some of the other ones. Go ahead.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
So let's just go around. We'll start with Rob since he's next in line. So Rob, what made you want to write a Bishop Ryder story and contribute to this?
We're going to see the pictures that you're being blackmailed.
Well,
Yeah.
I call Bishop Ryder kind of like Groundhouse Vigilante, and he's almost like a comic book character to me. Just that kind of that Batman or that the vengeance, but it's street level kind of thing. Not like a Superman or anything like that. He's doing the work in the street. So I've never had a chance to play with anybody else's creation as far as doing like working with Batman or working with any kind of character, anybody else's character. So there was kind of a chance to do that, and I just kind of fell back into my comic book roots, and I pulled some from a comic book called Grendel, where they have a guy who wears a mask, and for some reason the mask kind of not a virus, but kind of like that, where it infects the people who wear it. They kind of start taking on the characteristics of the last person who wore it, and then kind of their worse or baser instincts is, and doing vengeance, but also doing violence. And I saw that kind of a little bit with Ryder, and I thought, man, and then this Grendel thing that they were able to go into like the future, and you can see different people carrying on the legacy of the person. And I thought it'd be kind of an interesting take on seeing how Ryder's legacy lasted, and who took up the reins of his mission.
And
Also, I'd like
yours-
one thing I'd like to say is in this anthology, great bunch of writers, but I have to say there's 3 Kentuckians in this, and
there you go.
I don't know. It's me, James, Laurel. I mean, I don't know if there's something in the water in Kentucky or maybe something in the bourbon.
So
The
who wrote
bourbon.
those first? So you guys already have like one internet line in Kentucky. Did
That's
you,
right.
like, take
We're
turns.
on, yeah. We're on,
Right.
so
You took turns.
And it's dial-up.
You using the bandwidth.
And
It
it's
was like- Was
you can't tell, but
56K?
me, James, and Rob, we're all in the same
Yeah.
room. Actually,
yeah,
Yeah,
hey.
we're over there.
Yeah, knock on the wall there. Yeah. Rob, what's the name of your story in the book?
Echoes of Vengeance.
Okay, great.
And like Beau, I think it was offline, but Beau was talking about your story. I like the direction it took and how it's very different from all the other stories because of kind of where it takes place in the timeline. It was really cool.
And I told Rob this. It never crossed my mind ever in one Ryder story I've ever written, and it seems like it's just sitting there to do. And Rob just capitalized on it. It was awesome.
And I haven't read any other except for James' story. James' story
Had to happen.
really
Had to
good.
happen. Had to happen.
And it's a completely different perspective than I took. I mean, like I can't wait to hear everybody else's stories. I think it's gonna be great. But James's story is really, like you said, behind the scenes kind of thing, and it really is a different story than mine. And I guarantee Paul's is dark and
It is. It is.
very metal. And Meagan, I know Meagan, her crap's dark as crap, and Nick's always go like 100 miles an hour. So I can't wait to see what everybody does. Everybody's got their own.
Megan writes dark stuff. I thought it was like
Just a little bit.
She didn't pull out
bit.
anybody's eyeballs in this one, so I was happy about that.
no, but she has some freaking snakes.
Those are for you, Jay,
I know.
specifically.
Yeah.
So James, what's your story about?
What's your name?
What is your real name?
Yeah, who are you?
You know, this is just fucking up my stuff with the fans. Christ. Great. Now I got to start this shit all over again. No. So I'm a big fan. So obviously I was like thrilled when Beau was looking for Bishop stories, because I'm just going to state this early on. There's almost no one who loves writers as much as Beau does. I mean, to be a writer himself and to be as supportive of other writers, Beau's definitely at the top of that list. And so when he was looking for stories, I had to jump at that chance. I also knew that there was no way that I was going to try and replicate Beau's voice with how he writes Bishop. But what I was looking at, like, I was trying to figure out, can you bring Bishop Rider into Kentucky? Well, yes, obviously you can, because
Yes,
three of us fuckers did it. So, but what I wanted to do was, I'm a big fan of stories where they take what is typically the protagonist and they kind of set the protagonist aside. The protagonist is always like the small marginal part of a story. And so this was kind of inspired by a couple of things, by the show Millennium. If any of y'all are 90s kids and might remember that, I knew Paul Garth was going to get that.
It is my favorite TV show of all time.
Oh, great show. Great show.
Oh my God. Been
All time.
rewatching it on DVD. Still holds up. So there were a couple of episodes where they kind of took Frank Black, who's the protagonist, and he's this very haunted character, nothing like Bishop at all, but he's this very haunted, tortured character, and they kind of set him aside and they tell these other stories where Frank is a marginal part of it. And and another inspiration, this is going back to what Rob was talking about with Batman, was there was a great series. I remember it fondly. I don't think they've ever collected it or done anything with it. That was can't remember the title of it, but they did a couple of mini series on it that was about Gotham City, but it was Batman only shows up in like the final last pages.
Was it Gotham Central?
No, it was Gotham Knights.
No. Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights with an N.
Yeah.
So I loved the idea of like telling a Bishop story, but Bishop is really kind of the smallest part of the story on a certain level. Yeah. What it is really Bishop's effect. You know, how he, like how his vengeance, how this is his crusade threads its way through this one particular character who's a sheriff, small town sheriff in Kentucky, how his crusade threads its way through this character's life. And that was just so much fun to write, to get to bring Bishop in, but still tell this other story without trying to sound like Beau, who has a very individualistic voice. I mean, a Beau Johnson story when you hear it. So it was just a really good chance to get to play in that playground but still kind of keep my own toys.
And you killed it, man.
What's the name of
I appreciate that. Thank you.
The name of yours.
And also, if just as a warning for anyone who reads this story, if you happen to have live, laugh, love signs in your house, you are not going to like this story. It does not paint these people well, because I fucking hate
Not at
those
all.
times. So, yeah. So
I think actually yours was the first one I read, and what did I say, Brad, when I sent it to you? I was like, I hate it. It's good, but I hate it.
I hate the story.
I hate it. Like, what the
I get a
fuck?
lot of
I hate
that,
it.
Jay. I get a lot of that.
I was like, it was great. No, it's good. I hate it though. So the name of yours,
Jay
dark
does-
was the night, cold was the dark, right?
Cold
It's a
was the
song,
night,
it's a
dark
song.
was the ground.
It was the ground.
Was like, yeah,
Oh, wait a minute. Dark was the night, cold was the ground.
too many
I wrote
words,
this thing. It's
still
been a
good.
minute and I've been drinking.
but you'll hate it.
You'll hate it in a good way. Not
Yeah.
that.
It would anger you. So
And I feel like for the most part, everybody's stories kind of just had Bishop as like a peripheral character for the most part, and they were kind of doing stuff like the effects of what happened with Bishop affects all these other characters, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, what about your story?
So my story is called The Last Aches of Remission. It takes place very close to the end of Bishop's life. And, I've known Beau for years. When I was at Shotgun Honey, I was lucky enough to be part of publishing several Bishop stories.
Okay.
Beau's just a great friend. And when I heard that this was something that was happening, I was like, I think I really want to take part in that. The only thing is I've read so many Bishop stories and I've written my own stories, like enough to know that like there is a very slim chance of what I do working in that context. So I had to find a totally different way in. And so I ended up with a story that has the single worst character I've ever written. He is,
Concur.
yeah,
Yeah.
just an absolute monster. I also write stories. All my stories are set here in Nebraska. I had to find a way to get Bishop to Nebraska, and it took me to this like really, really upsetting place. Then the fun thing was everyone's, people have referenced Batman, and when people talk about Bishop, they talk about the Punisher. I've always had a little bit of a different take. I feel like Bishop is more akin to like maybe say Jigsaw or some like
Thank
master
you.
psychotic within the universe who has plans and fallback plans and enjoys playing with his victim. So there might be a little of that in mine. And then ultimately it turned into this technical question almost when I was writing the story. I did so many drafts, but it was like, how do you bring along an audience with the single worst person you've ever created and give them an emotional reaction at the end when in almost all of my stories, the emotional climax is realizing that this main character who you've grown to come to accept and understand in spite of their flaws, that moment when you realize they're really, really screwed.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that for the worst person you can imagine? And so I found a fun little way to flip it, and somehow it became the least violent yet most brutal story I've ever written.
And I'm glad you used fun in that too, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great time. Like
Fun was had,
1,000 words. So it's
Fun was had.
Rainbows, unicorns,
Yeah.
and Jigsaw.
Good time Friday night.
Yes.
I'm glad you said Jigsaw because writer always does seem to have sort of crazy contraption to inflict as much pain and violence as he can on somebody.
He
Like
calls it a little something more. Yeah.
Yeah, like Rube
Yeah.
Goldberg kind of, tortured him.
Like I always got the Punisher connection kind of from the get go when I first when I read the earlier ones. I was like, yeah, like a good vigilante, but like Jigsaw is just something special, with all the contraptions that Bishop's had. Yeah. So I'm glad I wasn't the only one seeing the Jigsaw character at times.
Oh, I see it all. Like it all started with those Death Wish movies when I was growing up with Charles Bronson. And
Charles
then the
Ruff, yeah.
Punisher, people have said Dexter, they said Jigsaw. Yeah, for sure.
Dexter would be a good comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Megan, what about your story?
Hello there, Megan.
Why, hello. Nice to be here for the first time ever.
I know. Ever. I think we owe you like shirts and all kinds of stuff, don't we?
Beau is such a sweetheart. I don't know if you know that about him. He's very kind.
I thought he was a terrible person.
Ruins my street cred. Yeah.
And as a fellow Canadian, when he asked me to submit something for this, anthology, plus, I'm pretty much always bitching and about not enough women in crime fiction, so I could not leave it on the table. But I don't write a lot of male POVs, like any, really. And almost all of my characters are victims of some kind who are trying to regain some agency. And so trying to fit this, Punisher type character with what I usually write, I ran into some of the same issues I think that Paul did, that I wasn't really sure that my style was going to be the right style. But I think I kind of took the same tack as James, and went with
good job on that.
I had to work really hard. Bishop is maybe the pebble in the pond, but the story is the ripples. And so the story is called Black Snakes, and that's specifically for Jay because I know how much he loves snakes.
I thought we were friends.
So was it hard for you to write in this world as far as the violence and stuff? Because your stuff has violence, but not to this level usually, unless it's eyeball stuff.
Right. Well, what's funny? I've started reading this really small town southeastern Ohio paper for crime ideas, and so that's where the Rubbermaid tote idea came from. And so I just thought that was really fascinating. And I don't want to ruin the story for anybody, but there's a Rubbermaid tote full of something gross, and I wanted to run with that. But yeah, I don't usually write tons of violence. And so that was fun, I guess, to do something a little bit different.
Fun, the fun word again, right?
Fun, yeah.
Tonight's theme, fun. Let's talk about. Okay,
Nick, what about your story? And I'm going to say, Nick, yours was the roughest one. I'm just going to put it out there.
Oh,
yeah. Yours is still
fun.
Yours is
fun.
still with
Don't forget that. It's also
it was extra fun.
Extra fun.
I should have known going into it because I've read your other stuff, obviously. So I'm like, oh gosh, I want to see what Nick wrote. And fucker.
Well, it was fun. I mean, like Paul, I was part of the Shotgun Honey Gauntlet for a long time. So my introduction to Beau comes from years ago when, he would kick his stories over the transom, and, he has such a distinctive voice. And obviously, like everyone else here has alluded to, when you try to adopt that voice, somebody else's voice, it's an extraordinarily difficult thing. So it's sort of, kind of a process of threading the needle. You don't want to ever do a direct imitation, but you want to do something that paying homage is not quite the right term, but it's sort of the one that's coming to mind at the moment, where you want to kind of, catch the voice, but also put your own spin on it as much as you can. And when I was sort of debating what my own spin on this was going to be, I was also completely infuriated by everything that happened to Uvalde, and the fact that the cops who sort of stood by and let that horror and that travesty happen certainly weren't getting away with it. They were fired and reprimanded, but it seemed that on a cosmic level that the scales really weren't adjusted. And so this story gave me the opportunity to take Bishop Ryder and as we were talking before, it's not just him. It eventually becomes the entire town, but sort of get their cathartic revenge on the cops who, in this case, it's not set in Texas, it's set on the Indiana-Michigan border, but it's a similar situation, and the cops are probably even more egregious, and they get that chance to sort of enact that vengeance. And also I wanted to, I've written a couple of vigilante stories over the years, and what I wanted to kind of do with this one is show how it can almost kind of be a group activity in a certain way, how you start these movements, and you see it in other kinds of vigilante fiction as well, where other people sort of begin to take it up. And I feel that there's so many Batman stories where Batman or Punisher, actually there was a huge run of Punisher Max in like the early aughts where the Punisher gets angry at people for going out there and basically following his example. But I kind of wanted to take that thread and play it out a little bit about what would happen if Ryder came into a place that was wounded and all these wounded people decided like, hey, this seems like, let's follow what this guy does. This could be fun. Using that word again, fun. Fun.
You did get so excited when you were like, vigilantism doesn't have to be a solo sport. Like,
it doesn't. We can all participate.
Like, oh,
it doesn't.
Yeah, he's into it.
The young, the old, everybody. If you can pick up like a heavy object, like you're part of the game. No, actually, that ends badly for everybody in real life.
So what you're saying is vigilantism is the new pickleball.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's sort of like, who was this serial killer in LA in the 80s? The Night Stalker, where when they finally caught him, it turned into like a group. Yeah. Like before the cops arrested him, like the pursuit through the neighborhood became like a friendly, fun neighborhood activity where everybody was like taking their individual time to beat him down before they finally got cuffs on him. Just, yeah, you know, it's amusing. Kind of, but yeah.
That's sick
before you were here, Nick, in the back room, I was telling him that your story affected me so much that it created my own writer story with Uvalde from your story.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So, yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's in my next book. Anyways, I can't remember. There's so many stories.
Bishop Ryder in space or what?
He's never made it to space. Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of like well,
Like
to go back to the Millennium reference, we've got a Osboros. What's that called with the snake eating its own tail? We've got that of Bishop. Yeah, we've got that of Bishop Ryder stories now. We've got like this, this loop of vengeance.
Yeah.
Nick, I thought yours was interesting because the villain in yours was someone who didn't actively do something bad. They were like passively didn't do anything. So I thought that was an interesting choice for that to be the villain of your story.
Yeah, and I mean I was sort of like, as I was writing it very dimly in the back of my head, I was recalling, you know, some college philosophy class of talking about like, you know, sins of omission versus sins of commission, and like, you know, and all those ethics columns that you kind of see online about where people are debating like that kind of thing. Like, you know, are you complicit if you don't participate in something, or if you stand by and let something happen? And like the thing about Bishop Ryder is that he's sort of like a shark. And so in the story, he spends a couple of seconds like actually going into like kind of tiptoeing around this ethical conundrum, and then decides, it's basically all the same thing, and then continues to roll forward at the vengeance. I mean, because the other thing too is you read a lot of, and this drives me nuts, you read a lot of crime fiction where the protagonist or the anti-hero waffles endlessly back and forth about the morality of what they're doing and should they be doing it. And like there is a certain worth to that. There's a certain weight and heaviness to that, but also at this point, it's also sort of cliche that the hero is going to like, you know, morally wrestle with themselves over some dilemma and like try to explore some larger philosophical issue. And I just thought it was really fun for Bishop to just kind of be like, thought about it. So, yeah.
Beau, did you let it be known to all of the writers, like who you accepted ahead of time? Do they know who was going to be?
I think I did it. You know, I wanted to say at the same time I was going to send all the acceptance or rejections. You know, that's what I said to a lot. But there was a few stories where I'm like, dude, you're in. You know, James was the first one that I did that on. Right. I can't remember all the ones I did it, but I did it on a few. Even though I wanted it to remain the same, you know, uniform, because people would email me, have you made a decision? And I'm like, I'm just going to do it all when the cutoff date was, and then I had to push it back because we wanted to get the female voice or interpretation of writer in there. So, but there was a few that I said, you know, go ahead.
Is everyone familiar with each other's work and their type and their history of work and all? Because I'm just wondering, like, okay, Rob's like, okay, well, shoot, I got to step it up because Megan's in it, you know, and then Megan's like, well,
they didn't know until you know, I came out with the table of contents, right? Or
I got it.
Yeah.
But I think we all know each other's work. Like I've actually published Rob and James and Paul at Reckon.
Okay.
And you've rejected me at least twice.
And I've
which is fine. No, I'm not. That's just the way of the game. I just want to throw that in there too.
And then Rob and I are co-editors at Rock and a Hard Place,
right.
And we published everyone in here except for Beau, who's never sent us a story.
Yeah, you know what? It might be time because I don't think I've been published in anywhere online since before Brand New Dark. It's been at least 5 or 6 years since. It's so weird because now we just write.
We did a story of yours at Shotgun Honey like a year
Oh,
ago.
sorry. Yes, you did, but it was a Bishop Rider story.
Yeah,
like I've written nothing for 6 years but Bishop Rider's universe. Yeah.
Well, we will take it at Rock and a Hard Place.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. I might
See,
take
this
you
is
up on
live.
that.
He can't take it back now. It's live. It's
I
out
can't
in the
take
world.
it back.
Yeah, he has to accept your story now.
Yeah.
So you just give him the most dog shit story, and he has to put it in there.
It'd be my yeah.
No one wants to see my dog shit. Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
Beau,
Who are
did you
some
give-
of the other writers who have stories in this that are not here tonight with us? Do you want to go down to table of contents or?
Oh yeah. So let's see. Well, we're missing Sean Cosby, who his story is sort of the legend of Bishop Rider being told like sort of like a John Wick style, and it ends in a blast. It was so fun, you know.
Pun intended.
Hello worm. That's all I'm going to say about that. Oh, excuse me. Who else are we missing? Peter O'Keefe wrote this story about a hunter hunting a hunter, and but I'm not quite sure if the hunter hunting Bishop Rider is all there in the head, and it may be. I always said it's a bonus if a story can make me laugh, and Peter made me laugh a few times during his story. So I hope you guys.
We've been talking to him actually about a future show for him because I know he's got some other stuff going on too. So
yeah,
maybe we'll ask him about it. So
yeah. And Laurel Hightower, I will tell you guys, it is one of the grossest stories I've ever. I loved it so fucking much. She just went whole hog, and she sort of used. Sometimes I use an unnamed narrator to push Ryder's narrative along because sometimes I just got to give exposition, and it's just hard for Ryder to do it himself. So I use a third party. And she sort of did that, and hers is like Nick's. Hers is timely, and I don't want to give too much away, but trigger warning for abortion. Anyways,
I was gonna say I noticed hers was the only story with a trigger warning.
Well, she asked for that, and
okay,
for sure, she wanted it. I did it. Yeah. Who else were we missing? Hang on, I don't even have the table of contents on me.
Rob Hart's was cool. The
Mary
Bless Us Miss.
Oh, Rob Hart. Oh. Yeah, it's like I said, it's so. Go ahead.
I was saying that was a cool perspective to take.
I was going to say,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're interrupting each other here, but Rob's story from that perspective of like a cleaner, like I never even really thought about that, and that was such a cool angle to go at it. I'm going to pause now if you want to talk.
No, we don't want to talk. You keep talking.
Okay. So, I think there might be a lag. I don't know.
Let's just talk over everybody tonight. Yeah,
just talk over everybody. Mary Thorson's story about a mother's grief is mixing it with Ryder was inspirational, I should say, and she was the only writer to utilize. Bishop's had many partners over the year, but there's always been this one-armed Billy who has this farm of pigs, and she utilized him. Not saying the pigs, but just Billy himself. Yeah. And then Tom Lanes. So Tom Lanes, he writes, I say of any writer I've ever read, Tom Lanes and me, I think we have similar styles. Like he writes this Joe Ray. I don't know if you ever read Tom Lanes or whatever, but he's I don't say he's a vigilante. He's more of a scumbucket, but he writes them so well. And he took on Bishop and a younger Bishop with Batista, his first partner. And man, it's so like frantic and kinetic. It's just, it's Tom Lanes' story, and it's so great. I loved it. And then Jay Stringer, whose story, the Friends of Reed Robson, I believe. It was so cool because I'm reading his story and I'm like, this seems familiar. But he went back into one of my old stories and implanted his story in a story I was telling. It was so cool. It takes place in this diner where Ryder is having a talk with Jeremiah Abram when they're first coming together. And he did great. He has his own story, and just Ryder and Abram are in the background.
It's like an Inception moment.
Another one of those that I can't believe he pulled it off. Yeah. And Manny Torres is like another the legend of Bishop Ryder, which he added humors into his story as well, and he nailed it. And then I think that was it. I think that's all the contributors. Oh no, sorry, Mark Rapiz, who was an older bishop. It's called Ryder Hears the Birds, and a more contemplative Bishop Ryder until he's not. And that's all.
Just to cause some controversy, everyone you just named we have backstage because they're kind of pissed you didn't ask them.
No,
so, except for Laurel,
you paid more than $19.
We asked Laurel. She's like, "Fuck, no, I'm not doing that." So
I'm in San Diego. Yeah.
No.
So, Beau, did you give all the authors like certain guidelines they had to adhere to? Like you have to mention Bishop Ryder, or you have to have violence, or this and that. Or...
No, I just broke it down.
You have to kill somebody in your story. Yeah. It doesn't count.
No, I broke it down. I gave him a timeline, partners. I'm like, use some of it, use all of it, use none of it. Bishop Ryder had to be in it. Yeah.
You and I went a little bit back and forth, as I recall, on like the ways that like sort of kill preferences, where I forget what my start point was, but it was not equipment that Bishop Ryder would have easily or whatever. So I changed it to just like him shoving a pitchfork through a serial killer's head before setting him on fire, which was nice and lo-fi. But I think whatever the original thing was a little bit too sophisticated.
Well, I think it was like, I think people like Bishop Ryder's never used a wood chipper, but everybody thinks he uses a wood chipper. And I think that's what it was. Yeah. And I just said, well, he's never used a wood chipper, and that was, I think that's what we had talked about at one time. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was. It had to be something different because he can use a wood chipper, but there was something else I think about something he was about his mother and sister, something emotional that it was like, it felt maybe too much he would give of himself to say in a story. I think that was it. Yeah, something there.
So yeah, you and Hector were doing. I mean, yeah, there was some like like tweaks and nuances to character because I mean, you lived this character, so I mean, and that's always good notes to have in terms of like tweaking that.
Since you mentioned Hector, I'm supposed to throw a chair up in the air and be all like do a heel turn and yell that he's not here. I'm just making things up.
Well, I want to give Hector props too because I'm not the most computer savvy and. The editing process was like I was a little freaking out because I couldn't figure out some of the stuff, how to get stuff to Hector. Eventually I did, but Hector had some great ideas and I'm glad that he did this with me.
So wearing the editor hat, was that something new for you?
Oh, totally. I think I was in a co-editor at Out of the Gutter Online for about 4 weeks. And I didn't care for it then. And then this is probably the first and last time I will ever do an anthology. I loved it. I love that it's here and it's about Bishop Ryder and these stories. Like I can't say enough how everyone killed it. Like it's all thriller, no filler. And I know people say that, but wait till you read it.
For everyone here, when you found out you were going to be in it, did the story that you wrote come to you pretty quick, or did you have to like wrestle with a few different ideas in your head? Did you already have a Bishop Ryder story ready to go?
I was already angry, like I said.
I figured, just waiting for Beau to say, "Hey, Nick."
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've always got a couple stories like bouncing around, and there are like kind of giant fragments, and so. Hey. Is it just a still photo of them? Is Rob sitting in Sean's lap?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow,
I can't see
anything. Got really off the hook like after I left.
Is that some public Wi-Fi? That's good stuff.
This is you're gonna have to break it down for me. I can't see anything.
Oh, it's Rob sitting. Looks like he's sitting on Sean's lap in like a phone kind of picture of him. It's just it's kind of. It's
oh, they must be. There's so many.
What
bars
happens
in
at the
Midtown
roller
that have
fest
that
stays at the
particular
roller fest.
there's so many bars in Midtown that have that very particular lovely shade of like neon red lighting. I don't know what hole they're in, but it's definitely something like around the corner from the Port Authority or something like that. They're gonna find them sprawled out on the West Side Highway by dawn.
I hope they keep their camera on. We just follow them around the bar and see what's going on.
Yeah,
that'd be
they just disappeared.
Yeah, they're gone. They're gone.
I guess the public Wi-Fi in Otto's shrunken head or wherever they were wasn't all that.
It'd be great if they didn't even know they had tapped in, and that's just what they were doing. One on the other's lap, for fun. Like, oh, pocket dial into paper cuts.
Yeah, the podcast butt dial.
Yeah. Like,
it's like
I want to ask.
Found out. Go ahead, Brad.
Nick, were you gonna say something?
Oh, I was gonna say it reminds me of the Jinx where he was still wired and on a hot mic when he like walks into the bathroom to wash his hands and accidentally misses to killing them all. Yeah.
I wanted to ask. We go around again. What was everyone's favorite part of their particular story, without trying to spoil the story itself? Nick, we'll start with you this time since we went the other way.
I'm trying to think.
What was the favorite part of it?
I mean, the community involvement part, which when you read the story will become clear, was I think Carly my favorite. Like it was almost like perversely heartwarming to me that like all the people in this town like get together to do something horrible, but they're together. Damn it, and they're like they're metaphorically holding hands as they do this horrible thing, and everyone feels good. So that would be mine.
Megan, what about you?
Well,
oh shit! What?
You're on a podcast, Megan.
Sorry.
Megan's just like, please let this be over. Please let this be over. Please.
like I've been on this show too many times. She's already zoned out.
She should get a jacket like they give them on Saturday Night Live. Like repeating guests.
Yeah, where's my jacket?
Yeah, needs to remember jacket.
Yeah.
Jacket's out. Took time on here.
So the title of my piece is called Black Snakes, and it's a metaphor, but there's also a scene that includes a black snake. And I'm a transplant to the South, so I was not super familiar with them before moving here. And so I didn't really realize how useful they are to have, on your property, but also I wasn't aware of how incredibly smart black snakes were and what they will do to sort of keep themselves safe and evolve. And so that was really fun to play with, that sort of idea of nature meeting, characters behaving poorly.
If they were so smart, they would be snakes.
Right. Exactly. Plus,
Paul, what about you? Yeah.
The most fun part of the story for me, it was. God, I'm gonna be real honest. I don't think there's a whole lot that's fun in this thing. It's. So one of the most challenging parts of this story was I'm not a horrible person, and I don't. There are certain writers out there.
That's what horrible people say.
There are certain writers out there, and what they want to do is they want to give you the most upsetting thing that they can imagine, and they want to put it on the page, just for shock value. And for the most part, I think that's bullshit. I think it's a really poor way to write. I think it's a really cheap way to draw out emotion. And also, I don't really have any interest. I don't have any interest in saying, okay, what's the worst thing I can do? And now let me make you live it. That just seems like passing trauma along back and forth, and it doesn't appeal to me. So what I had to do in this story, though, was make you think that I might do that, and then to pull the tension out of that. And it was exhausting and incredibly mentally drying. And I don't believe in like I'm not going to be one of those people who sits here and says like your art should hurt or any bullshit like that. But I was so relieved when I was finally done with the story, like that I was no longer in that guy's head. So fun. I can't say what's fun without giving away the ending, but most of it wasn't, and I'll put it that way.
Yeah, the fun comes at the end for sure.
That would have been a good tagline, though. Your heart should hurt. That's right on the cover. Oh, so
James, what was fun about your story, James?
All of it.
It was bringing into the Taylor Swift lyrics really towards the end. That was the best part. No, so just as a side note, I read Paul's, and I had read Paul's story, and I was like, God damn it! Now I don't know that I want to do this, because I liked and I'm pointing in the direction he's showing on my screen, because I liked the story. I liked Paul's story so much, but it's not a fun story. No, so like my stuff is always like weird connective tissue issues. It's like 4 or 5 things that like randomly join together, and so it was figuring out a way that live, love, laugh signs in people's houses and wall stencils and little Zen gardens to combine that with a Blind Willie Johnson song on the Voyager 2 album. Like making those 2 things work together was fun, but then also putting the character, putting the protagonist in this story in like that really dark, terrible sort of moment of like reckoning and decision at the end. I always like to say my genre is rednecks making poor life choices, and specifically Kentuckians and West Virginians making really tough life choices. And so it was making that character have to make that choice at the end was fun for me, not fun for him. But fuck him, he's not real. So
you pulled it off, man.
Your story made me laugh. Your story made me laugh because you talked about a fine Italian restaurant with checkered tablecloths in Frankfurt. I was like, that doesn't exist.
Oh Jesus, yeah. Well, Frankfurt's fancy. Y'all are fancy.
We're fancy.
Yeah,
fancy.
So what your story did,
James McGee.
What your story did to me, like now when I go to people's houses, I'm gonna be looking for the signs, and stencils, and I'm gonna start thinking things like immediately bad thoughts in my head, like where am I? And start looking in the basement stuff. So
exactly, look in the basement and
you ruin. I don't like to visit to begin with. You just made it worse. So
well, and I'm gonna say I wish I had. I wish I could say, oh yeah, no, I had that planned all along. I did not have that planned all along. It just worked out as the story was being written. So by the end it was like, okay, yeah, fuck all these guys. So
Rob, what about you, man?
Well, I have written stories in the horror genre before, but I'm more of a kind of a mood or like a cosmic kind of weird horror versus a lot of blood, gore. So I kind of wanted to get that over with in the beginning, and that was, it was my first thing was how can I go over the top? Because Beau, all his Bishop Rider stories have I think he's done every act of violence you can do to somebody. So I was like, what can I do that will, just like set the mood for the story for what I'm going to do. So I start off the first sentence. I've got them set up like the antediluvian man, his arms and legs are spread with chains, and I think I throw in a pretty violent scene in the beginning, and then I couldn't get that out of the way. I was kind of happy.
That felt like Clive Barker to me.
I was like, man, I got to do this kind of horrific, so I'm going to try and do the first thing, and that's what I did. That was my, because it's not easy to write that. I know people talk about like that, or like really other horror that's kind of. It's not easy. It's not easy to write that and make it feel like something instead of just being like Paul was saying, just for shock value. You know, you got to write it for. So it's kind of hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. I don't be subtle about it, but yeah. I mean, you can just do it. And it's just flat. But yeah, I was pretty happy with that.
And your story, Rob, at the beginning when I was reading it, I'm like, is this Ryder? This is sort of sounds like Ryder, but I don't think it's Ryder. And then it wasn't Ryder. So it was so cool how your story unfolded to where it went. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
And you said you like to kind of like to write the cosmic-y horror, and yours almost felt cultish in a way, like it could be a cosmic-y leaning that way. It didn't, but you know.
Yeah, I started going the more occult kind of. You know, kind of felt that that way with the in the cavern. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember whose story it was, but someone had someone's eyeballs cut open with like guitar strings, and that was the worst story I've ever read.
Jigsaw would be bad.
It was either it was someone who's it was
don't accuse me of that, Rob.
It was terrible. It was just like a brief mention. Someone got their eyeballs cut open with a guitar string, and it made me cringe really bad. It was awful.
Oh my God.
I can't remember whose that was. It might have. Well, Sean mentioned a lot of killings without actually showing, so it might have been that. Yeah,
it might have been his.
Yeah.
But did you have a favorite kill out of all the other people's stories?
Oh, they're all
or
my
something
favorites.
like man, I should have thought of that a long time ago.
Well, they're all my favorites, like I said, but Rob's story, like it changed things for me. Like seriously, like I'd come off just I'm done with publishing. You know, I was gone for 10 months, and then all these things were happening, and Rob wrote this story, and I was, you know, thinking about writing, or I started writing as Jeremiah Abram, and then he wrote this story, and I had maybe a quarter of a book done, and then that gave me the through line, his story, like not his, what he wrote just allowed me to finish the Abram Files, which spawned 2 more books. So I don't know, what was the question again?
Did you have a favorite kill that somebody else came up with? Not favorite story.
I know, 25 minutes later. What was the question?
Well, yeah, 25 minutes later. Yeah. Well, man, there's so many good ones. I have to go with Laurel Hightower. Like I can't give anything away because it is so spectacular. You guys are gonna love it.
Wait, did he tell us he cut out, or?
I think he said they're all good. He's trying not to pick a favorite.
You guys
I think you say like Rob.
Yeah. like I told you, they're all my favorites. Yes. But I don't know if you did hear me, but Laurel Hightower's story, it is crazy. I don't know if I cut out there or not, but yes, that is my favorite. I would say kill, and you guys are gonna love it. Like,
okay,
it is crazy how good it is. I can't believe no one's ever thought of it before.
Did anybody struggle? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, since Beau's here, like Beau, I think it was a year and a half ago, he asked me to blurb the Abram Files, and so I read it. I got an early version of it. I was reading through it, and Beau has a kill in there that I think actually 2 of my favorite kills ever are in there. There's the forklift, which
I do love my forklift.
Like chef's kiss. It honestly upset me. And then there's a scene where I think you just like throw 70 people out of a plane over the Grand Canyon or something like that. And I'm just like, you have both sides of it, and it's just so good. No,
well, thanks.
One of my favorite things I've ever done as a writer is coming up with the blurb for the Abram Files. I called it Chainsaw Noir, and I said it to Beau, and he was like, "That's what it is."
That's what it is.
Like, oh man, I've written my one true sentence.
I wish I'd have known it. I wish I'd have known it 5 years ago. Yes.
And it's its own subcategory on Amazon now. Chainsaw Noir.
I think you and Todd Robertson called it that. Yeah, like Jesus.
Yeah, we both came to it at like the same time, which was the crazy thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
So Paul, you kind of said this, but like when you all were writing these stories with the subject matter being what it is, were y'all just like in this dark headspace the whole time writing your stories? Was it hard to get into the mindset of a Bishop Rider story and all that comes along with that?
I think if I'd chosen to go a different way in terms of the story I told, it could have been a lot easier on me. My story like directly concerns someone who has previously escaped Bishop Rider. And if you know the type of people who Bishop Rider is going to be going for in the first place, like it's not someone you want to spend time with, right? So treating him, like writing this character and presenting him in a way that felt real was honestly really fucked up. Like that story took a really, really long time to write because I live a full life. I usually write at night after my family's asleep, and it'd be like 11:30 at night, and I'm like, do I want to go spend the next 45 minutes with this guy? Absolutely the fuck not. And that's one of the reasons why it took so long to come together. I think if I'd found a different way to tell that story, it would have been more enjoyable. But honestly, yeah, it was real rough.
What about for anybody else?
Yeah, Meagan, you mentioned earlier that you had to do a different spin on it because you don't normally write from the male perspective. Did you struggle any coming up with how you wanted it, how you wanted to present it, to stay with your Meagan Lucas style?
Well, I even in this, it's a female, protagonist. I think that this story is actually not one of my darkest stories, and I think that's because trying to balance the sort of like increased gore in this story compared to some of my regular jams. But I don't know. I guess I don't know that I struggled once I sort of figured out where Bishop was going to fit in this story. I did have to get him to North Carolina. But out of his natural area. But we've been keep using the word fun, like ironically, but my story was actually fun for me because I think it is maybe a little less heavy on the social commentary and some of that kind of stuff compared to some of my other work.
I feel like I had the opposite of struggle. I feel like I struggle with other characters. I didn't really struggle so much with him just because he's so straightforward in a lot of ways. And like once you have a character who's like all consumed with whatever they're working on, they're pointing in a certain direction, you kind of get the momentum behind it. Then I found him very easy to write in a certain way. I mean, it was also propelled by like rage and fun.
Should we be worried about that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's funny.
Was it too easy to write, Nick? Was it too easy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain. I think I don't know. I mean, you almost get into sort of like a George Stark, the Dark Half thing, where if you write this stuff frequently, does it say something about you? That there's something kind of lodged in your personality that you maybe don't want to explore too deeply. I don't know. I have to think about that a little bit. I don't generally think of myself as necessarily like a person dedicated to vengeance, but who knows? Maybe he's lurking inside me right now.
Nick,
is it true that
for what it's worth,
murderers buy the Bishop Rider series to learn how to do certain murders or
hideously elaborate?
I'd hope not. And if they
serial killer's handbook,
I thought it was on Twitter or someplace. I don't know. I just wanted to clear it up. So
because you can believe everything on Twitter.
Exactly.
How weird would it be, though, in all seriousness, if like some convicted killer had like one of your books?
Right?
No, it'd just be strange. That would definitely bake my noodle.
Like what if Netflix brings back Mindhunter and they're talking to a new serial killer, and next to him in prison, it's like 2 or 3 Bishop Rider books, right?
That I would have to pause. Yes. Yeah.
Then you'd be like, I made it.
I hope not, but yeah. I made it.
Definitely spike sales. Yeah. I hate that I'm thinking like that, but it's like,
you're right.
your bike is like, if you like the blood splatter copy of your book is on the front of CNN, like you're definitely going to see your Amazon ranking increase. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that anyone should manipulate that situation for their own ends, but it would help sales and maybe a movie option.
Yeah,
be a movie made about it and everything. So, Beau, we have it laid out for you.
Just follow the plan.
I'm in. I want to get this. I want to get this movie made. Yeah, exactly. I don't want the serial killer endorsement, but I do want the movie made. Yes. Yeah.
So, how many stories are in here? Is it 15? Is that correct? 15 stories.
15 stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
50,000 words. 15 stories. Yeah.
And we're looking at what?
And
Monday the release.
Yeah. June 3rd. All these authors are going to resurrect Bishop Rider.
Yeah.
One last ride.
You said that, but you just said you got another book coming out.
Until the next one.
But, no,
the second to the last ride.
The next one.
Yeah.
But I know it's convoluted, but Jeremiah Abram has continued Bishop's struggle. So Bishop is dead.
Okay.
He's dead.
Will that be written by the ones you rejected for this one?
No, these are all written by me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I better stop teasing them about it. So,
Do
Monday.
you have an ending in mind for Jeremiah? Or because I remember you telling us the Bishop's ending was something that just kind of occurred to you. Is there something similar for Jeremiah as well coming up?
Because if not, Paul has one.
Yeah. So, Bishop's was, I'm like, okay, he can go out in a blaze of glory, or I can give him 40 years of chopping up rapists and pedophiles. I chose 40 years of chopping up rapists and pedophiles. So Jeremiah, I want to do something different, and I do something different. And he doesn't die of cancer. He gets to fulfill Ryder's wish. So that's all I'll say about that. But there is a definitive answer, and he might have to pay for his crimes.
We can find that out in the next book.
The one after.
the third book from now.
So this is the last one before the next.
Well, yeah, the Abram Files has turned into a trilogy. So the next book out is called Like-Minded Individuals, and the one after that is Long Past Gone. I know, it's crazy.
I do think it's worth calling out. Like, I think Beau writes faster than maybe anyone I know, with the possible exception of Nick, who's just.
I think Beau's faster than I am. I think, especially right now, since I got a newborn.
Yeah, I think it looks like that, but it's not like that. It's like it does appear that way, but sometimes you do get the ideas. And Nick had mentioned that sometimes it's just because they're so straightforward. These guys I write, and one story ping pongs off another, and I've always, the way I write, prequel can create a sequel, and sometimes it's bonkers how I write. I know I write different than other people, so that could be part of it too. But I don't write every day. I don't. I wish I did, but sometimes there's been times 6 months I don't write anything. Sometimes 3 months, and then sometimes I'll write straight for 3 months. So,
well, I took into consideration with my story that your Bishop Rider's tales are brief. You know, they're fast. So I was trying to keep mine in that kind of that ballpark what you write. So that's what I was trying to. But it's hard to do that too. That's another thing too. We talk about horror was hard to write. It's hard to, and I do like to write flash, so I try to keep that in mind. But yeah, I was definitely trying to keep it brief when I wrote this, and then
yeah. So at the beginning, I would say Rider stories were anywhere from 700 to 1,500 words. But now, on average, with the Jeremiah story, they're usually around 2,000, and they just bang off one another. Usually, there's 25 stories to one of my books now, and usually every story is roughly around 2,000 words. Yeah. I
Did
figured
you give
out
everybody a word count for the? Did you give everybody a word count for their stories, or did you just let them make them as long or short as they wanted?
Well, I think I capped it at 5,000, 1,500 to 5,000, and pretty much everybody stick to it. Paul's was 7,000, which that's fine. I can make.
Damn it, Paul.
Acquisition. So yeah.
This is all right. So here's
It was such a good story. It had to go.
Let me defend myself.
I asked both Chad and Nick. I sent it to them early. I was like, I need to cut 2,000 words out of this. They both said to me, I don't know where you can. And at that point, I reached out to Beau. The funny part of it is his co-editor, Hector, gives me shit for exceeding word counts all the time. So it's like on brand at a certain point.
Well, I think I wrote under 5,000, so you got my words there. So you're good.
Okay.
It averaged out. Yeah.
There was only one over 5,000.
And it was Paul. The only one that didn't follow the rules.
There you go. You got it. Well, Beau, it seems like you're on a never-ending farewell tour with Bishop here. You're like the
every time he comes on here, he's like, "This is my last book. I'm never writing again."
Yeah.
I'm done.
It's like
Beau is the kiss of crime.
You're the kiss of indie writing. That's what's going on here. So we appreciate the fact that you wanted to celebrate the release with two dopes with microphones here. So
that's offensive, Jay. I'm so offended when you call me.
You're not.
Come on.
Simmer down, you and your youngin.
You guys,
thanks so much for
nice to me and Bishop Ryder. You guys have always I appreciate it.
Bring your gang along with you this time. So Rob, James, Paul, Nick, and of course Megan, thank you so much for coming by and wanting to support your buddy Beau here. We appreciate it, and agreeing to show up on the show here.
This is fun. Yeah.
This shit show of a show.
I can't say this show does any wonders for anybody's career.
No, it probably does. It's probably detrimental, to be honest.
But we appreciate the time and chatting with us. Any final words about this Bishop Ryder Lives before we get out of here and let you guys go spend your Friday nights doing what you do? I don't know what Kentuckians do. Sorry, James.
It's fun. Yeah. Sorry, I had to.
Monday, June 3rd.
That horse is dead. I need to stop eating that horse. It's a fun book.
Fun.
It is fun.
It's fun for the family if your family's the man.
Yeah,
great family fun.
I'm gonna get my kids and have like nightly read-alongs each story.
Be ready for the Bishop Ryder kids book.
We need the coloring book.
Get them warped young.
Yeah. We'll do a pop-up book, and like the pop-up will be different weapons each time.
We need a paint by numbers book.
Yeah.
All the different colors of blood
and stuff.
Yeah.
Blood splatter. Yes. I'm in.
All right.
Daddy, what's that person doing with the chainsaw? We can't talk about that.
What hole's that?
All right, Jay, let's end it now. God, Jay.
Yeah.
For Rob and James, Paul, Nick, Megan, and of course Beau Johnson, I'm Jay. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. That's Brad over on the other side there. It's been another exciting episode of Paper Cuts you guys love.
A very fun episode, right? Fun.
Make sure you pick this up on Monday. It's being sold everywhere. Murder Shop to get books for ideals. So Amazon, I'm guessing you can get it. And
Yep. Down and Out books. Yep.
Down and Out. There you go. Bishop Ryder Lives. All right. Rock on, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Love you, Jay.
Bye, guys. See you Monday.
I know you do.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yay.